And you are listening to The Professional Artist. I am Echo Chernik, and we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 1077 FM in New Orleans, simulcast on YouTube and Facebook. Please like, follow, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. And today, for a guest, I have my good friend Bea Jackson. Hi, Bea. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Where are you located again?
Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit, Michigan, and I am, of course, in Bellingham, Washington. So that's right, you're a couple hours ahead of me. So
Yeah,
how's it today in Detroit?
it's actually beautiful. We've been having a
Cool.
pretty warm fall so far.
So B is an illustrators of the future winner. Which volume was it again? Volume was way back.
Yeah, way back.
30,
Yeah. I think it was the
which
30th, but
30th? Awesome.
2008.
And I just love the style of your artwork. I mean, it's awesome. It's you can find her art at it's a b.gifted.com. And on Instagram it's at b.gifted, bea.gifted. And I love your art. You just I don't know, you just have so much fun in your art. It's just so beautiful.
Thank
You just make art so fast and so like fun and just I don't know. I just love it, seeing everything you create. Your characters are fantastic. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where your career, where you started, why you entered the contest, and
yeah. Well, I am a self-taught artist. I basically got into drawing because I got fascinated by anime at a really young age. It was like I'm dating myself, but it was like around the time we first got the internet, and I saw anime and I saw comics, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to be like those artists." So I just started drawing, and I would also like watch a lot of sci-fi films and fantasy films, and I would like do little fan fictions and create characters that eventually branched off into my own stories. So I have like all these folders from like elementary through middle school of like these characters that I designed and just going through the process of learning digital art before it was actually a thing. At least in my world, it wasn't much of a thing at the time. And I built from there. When I went to college, I had an art teacher that was very interested in actually seeing me pursue art as a career because I wasn't considering it at first. Because so many people would tell me like, "Oh, if you're an artist, you're going to be broke." So I got to a point where I was like, "Well, I'd rather be broke and have fun." So I just pursued it anyway. And my teacher really helped me through high school. And part of joining the Illustrators of the Future contest was getting scholarships to help pay my way through college. So the college that I went to was expensive, is expensive. I was only able to get I was only able to get 2 years in before I had to drop out. And
because it was expensive?
yeah, I couldn't afford it anymore.
Ugh.
At the time, my mom had got laid off, and I was pretty much on my own financially from then. So I had to work, and it was hard to juggle working and drawing and trying to maintain my classes. Because at the school that I was at, the classes were like 6 hours long. You have enough of those, it's like hard to, that's like full days. So trying to juggle that and work and doing it all, it was a lot. And I had an instructor that pulled me to the side and told me that I don't have to go broke in order to become an artist, basically telling me I didn't have to continue to invest in the school or like in all these extra years that I would need in order to make it. She was like, you can make it where you are right now. So that pretty much pushed me to jump headfirst into my career. And
All right.
yeah, so I picked a lot of jobs that allowed me to work from home. Like pretty much every job that I've had, independent from artwork, has been working from home. So I would do like phone service calls. I was a customer service agent. So while I'm like handling people's issues with Sears, Apple, and all that stuff, I would be like multitasking drawing. So like doing two things at the same time until I was able to just draw. So that's how I got.
It's a great way to just you're helping them fix their whatever customer service problem is, and you're drawing your projects or whatever at the same time. That's the way to do it, I guess. So thank goodness for the internet.
Oh,
So what was your first big professional job?
my first big professional job was the Parker Looks Up book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had called you, or I had messaged you and Les, and I had also messaged John, and I was like, I think this is a scam because
You
I've
were
been
so
dealing with.
nervous about that. You were so convinced that it was a scam. You got an email about this job, and it was like too good to be true. And you're like, I think this is fake. This must be fake. Be a scam.
Well,
And so you wanted to run it by me to make sure, because you met me at the Illustrators of the Future,
mhm.
and you were like, just is this legitimate? And you wanted our help with it. So just to tell everyone what was going on with that. And so tell us about the Parker Looks Up book.
Well, I mean, it was my first major job, and the reason why I thought it was a scam is because I had so-called major jobs before that were through agencies, and I actually talked to some people. Like, I'm part of a few Discord groups where I help and like let other artists know like these are things you can avoid. So I had a job that was through this supposed agency. I was supposed to be doing some work for Hard Rock Cafe, and that was at the time the biggest opportunity I had had. And it turned out that it was an artist that was hired in house from. This is all they were hired in house, and I was working through an agency. So they were trying to pass off my their own, but they couldn't justify my time schedule, so they ended up getting caught. So
Oh wow.
so I was in college at the time, so I was telling the agent like, hey, I can't meet these certain schedule dates. Can you work with me? But the artist that was working in house didn't have any excuse for why the artwork was coming later than they wanted it to, and it ended up exposing them. And I don't know what happened to that person, but like after that, I got like really skeptical about a lot of things, especially the bigger the name, the more skeptical I was because I had been burned before. And so yes, when the Parker job came up, I knew that it was through Simon and Schuster, and I was aware of them as a major publishing house. So I was scared, and I just like I let them know, like I went through you and just confirmed like, hey, is everything cool? And um, I responded to them like, yeah, I'm interested in it. So there's a process that some artists go through, like in terms of the scouting, where they try to find artists and stuff. And sometimes you have to do a test to see if your art style fits and things for the project that they're looking for. And I just remember I was driving home and I got a notification that said that was from somebody from with Simon and Schuster, and I just saw like the tagline that said "you got it" or something like that. I just had to pull over and I just cried because I was like, "It's real. I have a real opportunity. Like this could change things for me." Because I spent like a good 15 years struggling as an artist, like doing work just to get by. So this was an opportunity for me to actually have something that could, I wouldn't have to struggle anymore. And it was a really good working relationship. I was very transparent. Like this is a first time for me, like with something this big. It's my first time working with a team, and just let them know ahead of time, and they were able to accommodate me. And it turned into a really good working relationship. And I'm still working with the same people today. It's like 5 years later, and I'm working on my own projects now. So,
Do they have a lot of books? Have they done a lot of books with you now?
yes, I've done quite a few. Actually, through that job with Parker, I got connected to an agent, a really good one. She has my back on, everything really looks out for me as an artist, make sure people don't rip me off. If there's a job that she feels might be sketchy, she lets me know. So I have somebody that's in my corner, but all that came from that one job and that one really good relationship that formed out of it. And they're very excited to see me succeed. And I have a team behind me to help me with a lot of stuff and like the areas that I struggle in, and they're it was like the first job that I've had where, like, if I'm stressed out, they give me time. Whereas
That's
before,
cool.
like, I had to, like, I would crank and crank and just, the older that I get, the less my body likes that. It starts to, I was like, oh, now, like, once I hit 30, I was like, oh, no. It's like I can't, like, do the crunch culture like we used to in college, because that was really pushed in college. Like, stay up all night, don't get any sleep. You're gonna have to pull all nighters. I'm like, I can't even physically do it anymore.
Nope. You learn to manage your time a little bit better, and communicating with your art director is so important because sometimes they have a little bit of wiggle room in their schedule, and you just need to communicate and be like, all right, can I have a little more time so I can give you better work? And as long as you're talking to them, that's number one key.
Yeah.
Now I know you said that you had so much work for a while that you had so much work with them that they have other artists that actually work on the project that do your style, right?
Not
Or
necessarily. Like,
similar?
what happens sometimes is, like, I might just do the cover. There'll be another artist that does the interior, because sometimes if you do a job, like, especially in the book industry, the scope of the job might change. It's kind of like how you have a movie that gets really popular, and then all of a sudden they want all these sequels and it wasn't originally planned. So sometimes that's what happens, and, like, sometimes the same people that worked on the original don't have the time in order to continue working on the rest of it. So that's more like the situation that I was running into, where, like, I still wanted to work on these projects, but, like, my schedule had got booked up. So in some situations I do, like, just the cover art, and then another artist does, like, a similar style for the interior. So I can still
Cool.
be involved with the project and, still support the original author that I was working with.
Oh,
So
that's cool. I do remember you telling me that you were when we were down in Los Angeles that you were in negotiations talking about we were talking about AI, and you were negotiating in the contract about your style because you were protecting your style so that publishers were not able to just take your style and input it into the engine and then just pump out like endless amounts of books in your style. Where did that develop into? Do you
well,
have that protected or?
Well, it's not just me. It's mostly with the different, like, agencies and publishing houses are doing that. So, and it's to protect all artists, that, just adjusting the contracts to account for AI. Because what can happen is, like, say for example, you do a job for a company, and they just want to hire you for that one job, and then they basically, especially if they acquire rights to your artwork. So there's a whole another spectrum of things like that. So they acquire arts rights to your artwork. You do the one job, then they have, like, a whole book worth of material that can be fed into an AI system to replicate your style. So the contracts are basically, like, some of the language has been changed to where they don't have the right to do that. And if that,
Mhm.
that is something that happens, then you can legally pursue them. So, like, if I just hypothetically speaking, if I took on this job, they hired me for the one book, and next thing you know, there's five more books in my exact style that I definitely didn't do. That could be a cause of concern, and, so they were like, I made that one investment. Now I don't need you anymore. So I think the industry is just, trying to protect the artists and make sure that, we're not being taken advantage of. But
That's really important because it's kind of scary to think you could do one job and then they could just take it and plug it in and then just keep churning out. They don't need you after that. So it's yeah, it's kind of scary. So that's good that you're jumping right on that. So
yeah.
so hi Rose. Rose is listening for the first time. So does anybody have any questions? We got a pretty active chat today, so on YouTube. So if anybody has any questions for Bea, so definitely check out her work at bea.gifted. Your work is just so cute. I love your work. It always makes me smile so much.
Well,
It's
thank you.
totally different from my work, but it's just so cheery. I remember, oh gosh, I was in Target with my daughter, and she saw you had a couple of years ago. You had a whole line of Christmas items with your work on it, and she's like, "Wait a minute, that's Bea's work." And you had like the boxes and the wrapping paper, and they had you as a featured artist, and it was just fantastic. She just turned around, she just saw your face on the thing with all of your cute characters. She's like, hold on. And I think that's when it occurred to her that we actually know artists that have worked in Target. And she's like, that's me. Wait a minute.
That's really funny because, like, I was looking into exploring other art forms because I'm like, oh, what if I wanted to go under like an alias and do something different or something? But like my style, a lot of people recognize it now. So I'm like, ah, crap, they'll find me anyway.
It's pretty amazing. I know. I try to do things under a different art style. People find me and they're like, "Oh, this is yours." I'm like, "How did you recognize that as my work?" It's pretty. People are very observant. They can see things in our art that I don't even realize they can see. I'm like, I didn't think that looked like my art at all. And
people can pick up on it. And I've noticed like I'm part of some like really awesome groups on through Instagram. One of them is Painted Words, and I've done like a podcast with them as well. And I had a book that came out, and I'm not always aware of like when the release date is. Well, I know when the release date is, but when they announce like the covers of stuff. So a lot of times I find out because I get a message like, "Hey, is this you?" Because I'm not as active on social media as I would like to be because I'm just, sometimes it's like I'm going from one project to the other. So like the mental fortitude that I need to have in order to even post something on Instagram is sometimes too great for me to handle. So
you're so busy. Oh my goodness.
but it like I'll get messages and they'll be like, this person didn't credit you for your artwork. I know this is you, or they'll ask if it's me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is. So they're like, this is who actually did this piece and stuff like that. So they're like really looking out, and but they can identify my style. And it's just really cool.
I get messages too, like I saw your stuff on T-shirts. Did you authorize this? Oh yeah, that's because I have my work on shirts from Pegasus Publishing, and they have my cat work on shirts, and I get a lot of messages saying they're allowed to do that, and they do really nice shirts, and I'm like, no, they're the only ones that are allowed to have my stuff on shirts. So, but I get a lot of messages asking, is that okay? They're very protective, which is really nice when the public is protective. So if you see an artist's work, don't be afraid to reach out to the artist and say, is this legitimate?
Yeah, it definitely is. And like some of my friends are art collectors, so they absolutely refuse to buy stuff unless the original artist has like okayed it. And they'll also check in on me and like say like, did you agree to this? And sometimes I didn't. I'm like, I had no idea. Like I found some of my stuff on Etsy before. So people, and I've tried reporting to different things, but people have unique ways of stealing your artwork, or like they might not do a direct rip, or they may do the same exact thing but might change like little bits and pieces of it to say that it's different. But like if you put them side by side, they're like the exact image, just like it might be a different hairstyle or things like that. So I do have people that reach out to me for that, and I've had some people reach out and ask me if certain AI pieces are mine, and I'm like, nope, I didn't do that.
Oh,
me.
Have you had a lot of problem with AI copying your style?
For me personally, I don't think so. Um, I haven't directly encountered it. I think some people mistake my style for it. But I haven't directly experienced it so far. I'm trying to see about like how things are going with because AI is just moving so fast, like in the different social media networks and stuff like that. So I'm part of Kara. Like I am on Kara, I'm on Blue Sky, and like I'm part of these different groups, but I haven't posted anything really there yet.
Me too.
Yeah, so it's just like the process of starting over. It's like, oh, I just got my Instagram, to build up to a certain point, and I have to start all over.
I know it's hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah, it's a full-time job. I can see why people hire people just to do their social media.
All right. Athena wants to know, what are good ways to get in front of publishers or agents?
Um, well, there's a lot of ways to do it. When I was originally going to comic conventions, I would go to connect with art directors. Mostly because some people I would go to artist alleys specifically that had comic books or worked in the comic book industry, and I would just ask them, "What did you do to get hired?" And some of them said that they would do like say for example Wonder Woman. They would do like a cover for Wonder Woman as if they were hired, and then they would submit stuff like that to DC. And some of them got hired like that. So sometimes it's a matter of like at least back then it was like giving yourself assignments where you can meet similar challenges that you'll have for different clientele, so they can kind of see that you're already capable of doing certain levels of work. Because like sometimes with certain jobs, they want you to come in already. They don't want to have to train you or teach you. So like learning things like graphic, like how to word placement or doing things like that can actually go a long way. And you can do mock covers and use that to promote on your social media. Like especially you could do a mock cover and people actually think it's a real book and they want to buy it. Like it can go a long way because it builds up. You can build up your portfolio and then you can submit those pieces to actual publishers, or even create a story off of your mock covers that you do. Um, but one way that some people actually get a lot of jobs in the art industry, and I'm just saying this from my personal experience, knowing people that are in these different levels of the industry. Like I can't understate like how important it is to make friends. I think that with a lot of artists, and this goes for myself included, a lot of us can be very introverted, can struggle with talking to people, being open with people, and like making those friendships. But you never know where like different artists are going to go in their career. And I've made friends with people that have gone into all these different industries, and then they'll be like, "Hey, I know this person named B. Um, her style looks like it would fit for this job," and they'll reach out to me. So that's actually how I got most of my jobs, but it wasn't instantaneous. Some of those things it'll be like, okay, I met this person 2 years ago, and then 2 years later they might like their company might be looking for an artist. But a lot of it's going to involve putting yourself out there, putting creating curated portfolios to the specific jobs that you want to do. Do not put out anything that you don't want to be con- constantly contacted about, you know. And also be careful about your social media. What you put, people watch your social media, and
Oh,
even
yes.
yeah. So like if you have very polarizing social media, you know you might be able to connect with certain groups, but other people might completely write you off. So it's a whole process. I feel that um, in building yourself up to a position where you can be appealing to different agencies or publishers, and then certain things that you can do to train yourself for that work before you get it. But yeah, that's a few ways to answer that question.
Yeah, you have to be very careful about what you post on your social media. You have to remember you don't know who's watching. You just always assume potential clients are watching. So, especially right now with politics and stuff, you have to decide if you're going to post anything political, because that's going to become part of your brand and will affect whether or not you're going to get hired. So, I mean, it may be that you want that to be part of your brand. And so in that case, you can post political stuff, but you should be very careful and know that's going to affect who's going to hire you. So, because some people will be turned off by that. So you have to be really careful. If you have, there's a separation. And when you become a professional artist, um, everything you post is public. So,
Yeah.
um, you don't get to have a lot of personal opinions out there, because everybody on your page is watching everything you post. So you've been traveling a lot lately.
Yeah, now I'm starting to. I've been doing different events. I try to do a lot of stuff local with my local bookstores. That's another way you can really connect with different publishing houses. If you work closely with bookstores, local bookstores, a lot of times they know people too. So like I connect with a lot of the local shops, and then occasionally I'll get offers for going out of state to do like different conferences and stuff like that. So I try to use that time to explore the new areas that I'm in. So I was like,
Do
I'll
you
just
do
on a few
do you
more
go
days.
do you go do signings at the bookstores and
Yes, so I do signings. They'll have like different events. Like we just had a really big book fair, and the governor actually showed up. We had Governor Whitmer that came to our table, so
oh
it was
cool.
really cool. So like me and the other authors, we were all fangirling, like, oh, that's cool. We got the best table. But
Oh
like if you get really connected with those different groups, like really get into the book world, there's so much going on that like you just might not be aware of like under the
yeah.
scene. And authors look out for each other. But yeah, but
Did you take pictures to put on your social media?
I took pictures. I didn't post anything though. Like I'm just terrible with it. I just keep stuff on my phone.
You're supposed to post it.
I
Uh,
know.
it's so hard though. I think that's the biggest thing people say is it's so hard to post things on social media. It's just amazing how hard it is to just hit post, because it's like, oh, so much work. So
Oh
I just
yeah,
want to make art.
it's like getting a moment of anxiety before I post. And man, I'm not gonna do it. Or I'll
I
just
know.
get distracted and just go make a burger or something.
but and when you travel, remember when you're traveling, I'm saying this not for you, but for other people. When you're traveling and you're going to do book signings and stuff, if you're an artist, you get to it all counts as like a tax write off too. So if all your travel and all your food and all the stuff you're doing while you're out doing all of this and taking photos and doing all that stuff, that's all a business expense. So make sure that you keep receipts for all of that
Oh, for
because you can
sure.
because you can write it all off. It's all business expenses.
Now,
So
one thing that I do is like when I travel, I take a lot of pictures so that I can have reference material. So,
oh yeah.
so I'm like, oh, cool. I got like, and then sometimes if I meet somebody that has since I really love outfit designs and things like that, if I meet somebody that has a really cool outfit, I'm like, hey, can I take a picture of you? I like your
Yep.
style, and give them a business card. A lot of time that goes really well, and you can like create some really unique characters that way if that's something that you're interested in, because you can see
Oh yeah.
people's style come out. Because
Just make sure if you're going to use their likeness, you get a model release from them, which you can get an app for that on the phone. I'm not sure how close you have to be on for more of a cartoonish caricature style, but for realistic style, I need a model release. But I have an app on my phone that lets me do a quick model release. So when I find somebody in the wild that I want to take pictures of, I just have them sign a model release. So but yeah, I take reference photos whenever you travel. You're like, ooh, cool texture. You can find a cool brick wall, take a texture of it, cool flowers, cool people, cool clothes. So
if you just catalog everything, because that was
yeah.
one thing. Ron Lindon, because when I went to the Illustrators of the Future contest, the person that taught me was Ron and Val Lindon.
Mm-hmm.
I remember telling Ron, I was like, I want to travel. I want to see the ocean. I want to see real blue water for once, because our water over here looks nothing. It looks muddy. So
Detroit.
it's
No, Detroit water.
it's clean now. Like you can see through it to a point, but like I wanted to see some real tropical Kool-Aid blue water. So that was like one of my things. Like I really want to see the ocean. So I just remember Ron telling me, make sure when you go, you take pictures and use it as references. So that's something I remember from back in 2008.
Oh
So I
yes.
finally got to see the ocean. It was a little choppy that day, so it wasn't like crystal, like the same blue that I would like it to be, but it was still beautiful. And so I was like, now I have like real life experience, and you get in, and sometimes you have to feel things in order to kind of translate it into illustration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Athena asked what the app name was. I think my phone's off right now, so I don't get interrupted. I think it was called like Quick Model Release. If you do a search for it, you should find it. It's like I want to say it's Quick Release, but that sounds like it's a lube or something. So I don't think that's right. But I think it was like Quick Model Release or something. You're gonna get like a pancake lube for taking out bake molds or something if you type in quick lube, or maybe worse. I don't know what you'll get if you type in quick lube, but quick model release, I think is the name of it, is the app in the app store. Something like that. And it's just basically, but you can also do if you're in a real big pinch and you don't have a model release handy, you can make a recording where basically you just have the model next to you and you say the date, and you say that I give permission for Echo Chernik to use you have the model say, I give permission for Echo Chernik to use my image and likenesses and artwork, for in the date and for whatever project we're shooting for, and my name is, and the model says their name. You just do a verbal one, and that will count as well. As long as there's a record of them giving permission. Quick model release looks like it worked. So anyway. But yeah, I'm just reading the comments here from Athena. So it sounds like that's the right name. But anyway, so what else you have planning coming up there, Bea? What other shows do you have coming up?
Well, right now, like I'm actually supposed to be going to Florida for the first time, so I have an event there where it's a publisher event. So I'll be doing some workshops and things like that there. So usually when I get invited to stuff like that, they'll ask you like, hey, what do you want to sign up for? What do you agree with? And I'm like, I pretty much agree to everything, So in the publishing world, a lot of times they'll have like these events that are like speed dating. And it's for publishers and authors to kind of share, like for authors to basically mass share their book to different either publishers or bookstores, so they determine if they want to have your book in their store.
Okay.
So the ones that I've been to, basically it's like me and another artist or author, and we both have like 5 minutes. And the table that we go to is usually full of like different bookstore owners or publishing houses and things like that. And you got like 5 minutes to pitch your book. They already have your books there. You can sign and copy them and, sign release and stuff like that. And depending on how it goes, they might be like, hey, I want you in my bookstore. Can you come to my library? Things like that. So that's how I end up getting some of those jobs. And that's also how I became really good friends with some of the local bookstore owners that we have here. I actually met them out of state, but they travel to these different events to find the best in their store. So that's really cool. And they also, it's like a convention, but you don't buy anything either. So like all the publishing houses they can go to, like pick out the books that they want. They'll take like a sample copy with them and things like that. So those are really cool. So I think that one's similar to that. It's just in Florida. Okay. So yeah, but
are there a lot of those?
I'm not sure how many there are, but I know there's Heartland Movable Feast, which is one, and it moves states. They switch states, so every now and again they might come here or go to different places. But if you have a book, if you're an author, even if you do like self-publishing of your own book, that's a really good way to get your book and your work in front of a lot of different people. Like if you could sign up for those different things, because you're basically for like an hour and a half, you're like jumping from table to table. So you get to see like a lot of different bookstores and publishers in a short amount of time.
And if you're an illustrator, do you go to that too, or just if you're an author?
I'm an illustrator. I'm like one of the few that was there, but it works. I mean, if you're an illustrator and you have your own stories that you want to tell, or like you do your own book, want to produce their own artwork, they just don't really know how to get started in terms of how to formulate an actual book. But and that, some artists, they're like, I can't do it unless I actually have a publisher behind me. You can 100% do it without a publisher behind you. Like that's where the self-publishing world comes in, and that's actually how I got started. So for a good 15 years, I was working with self-publishers, it just takes a little bit more work to get your stuff out there, and you got to get plugged in with like what the bookstores are doing. So I would go to like different bookstores and just like ask them, are there certain events that you do? Like, how do you decide like what books to put on your shelves, what books to order? And some of them will let you know, like, hey, these are different events that we do. These are, if you want, you can come like do a signing at our bookstore, and we'll set it all up for you and stuff like that. And it's just a good way to promote your artwork.
And
So
what's this convention in Florida called?
I think it's called Fame. Fame conference. It's in around SeaWorld.
FAME.
Yes,
So
FAME.
okay. So what do people search for if they're looking for like this type of conference?
Let me
Like a
see.
publisher type of conference so that they can find one near them because it's like an industry publisher conference.
Um, I would look into. I would get us if you're specifically more interested in like children's books, which is the area that I'm mostly in. SCWBI, Society of Children's Books Illustrators. They're connected to a lot of different events, and they have local charters. So like there's like different charter groups for different states. And I got connected to them through Kirby. She was also a past winner with Illustrators of the Future. So she actually worked with one of the local charters that we had here in Michigan. But they're connected. They're based out in New York, I believe, and
Yeah,
they
I think you're right.
have yeah, they host a lot of contests and different things that you could be associated with. So if you are really into children's book illustrations, that's a good network to actually go through. Whereas, like, if you were interested more in comics, you would probably go to Comic Cons and things like that. So that's how things usually work with the children's book. But for Fame, it says our annual Fame conference attracts 600 school librarians, technology specialists, and administrators who come to Fame to discover new ways to reinvent their libraries, classrooms, and schools. So this one's more like with the school systems. That's another way to get like different groups to buy your books in mass if you get connected with schools, colleges, different things like that. It's just a lot of like legwork to, build up to that. But um, there's communities all over the place, like for like depending on what area you want to move in within publishing and how you can get connected with people.
But it's a great way to talk to people and learn about the different areas where to go to promote your book and everything. Do you get contacted by a lot of people that want you to illustrate their book, like individual people?
I do, I
Yeah.
do that, but I refer them to my agent. I had some unfortunate nightmare experiences, so I just refer to my agent directly because sometimes people will like I don't like to be mean or anything with people, but sometimes people will try to abuse my kindness in a lot
There
of
are
different
a
ways.
lot of there are a lot of well-meaning and independent authors out there that want to hook up with an illustrator to have their book illustrated that don't understand the industry and stuff, and it's a little hard to figure out how to navigate that without hurting people's feelings. So
Yeah.
it's good to have an agent to be able to push them over to. So um, I think if you have to be cautious when entering an agreement with an author if you're going to go in with an author to illustrate a book, you should definitely have everything in writing and have everything spelled out ahead of time because that can get really, really messy. Um, because that's something people get into, I think, a lot when they're first starting out in children's books.
Yeah, but I usually, when I do connect with different people, I might not always be able to take on a job or it might not always be a best fit, but I'm usually very open, like, hey, this is what you can do to kind of get things off the ground. This is what you can expect, like working with some illustrators, is how you can maybe find some illustrators. So I try to be as accommodating as I can in the people that I do connect with. But it
Yeah,
can.
where's a good place that authors can find illustrators if they're looking for someone? I'm sure we have
Well,
listeners that are authors that want to find illustrators to illustrate their books.
well, I would say like right now, a lot of artists are working out through Instagram and Kara. There were websites before that you could basically find illustrators for, but it could be some of those could be a little sketchy too. It's kind of like Fiverr, where like the rates might be a little wonky. But I would say like if you find an artist through like Instagram, like get it like associate with their feed, like what it is that they like to post. Sometimes if they are working, sometimes they'll like list specifically, I'm open for commissions. Like look into their tag and see if they're actually open for commissions. If they're or if they have an agency that they're working. So on my site, I have like there's a way to contact me, but there's also like direct contact to my agent that I'm working with. So I'm like, if you're interested in working with me, contact my agent. We can see if it actually works in my schedule. If this is a job that I feel like I would be a good fit for. But it's really up to it's a lot of times it's up to the artist as to what it is that they're promoting, what they're putting out there. And I do know that on Kara, they are trying to attract more. They are trying to attract more art directors.
Cool.
Uh, Art Station was also one of those sites where a lot of art directors would go to. And it's really good also if you have art directors that are actually interested in that are actually artists themselves because they understand how the industry works and things like that. But I would just go to places where the artist is more active. You might not have much luck in the direct DMs, but look at their like how it is that they're receiving information. Some artists are actually on Etsy as well, where they like have like a phantom posting, and then you can contact them. They'll be like, okay, contact me through here, and then I can communicate with you forward. So it works differently with each artist. You just
Or
have
they
to,
go to conventions too. You can often meet them in person at conventions.
yeah.
So, but don't use AI. Oh, geez, don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of animosity towards the AI. Like I've seen a lot of people saying like for authors, they're like being very careful with authors. I was like, if you are an author and you have AI, you anymore. So so as people are standing like really firm on that, which is really great. And I do know that like with some of the contract changes as for artists themselves, they're also saying like in the contracts you're not allowed to use AI like in it either because it just complicates everything as well. So
Yeah, no.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I can see AI having a purpose in things in the future, but it has to be ironed out. It has to be standardized and ironed out and not abusive. It needs to slow down and get, ironed out. I mean, and figured out first. Right now, it's too fast, too much of a mess, and not, and, yeah, AI is just bad right now. So, um, ugh. But maybe you could just do my laundry. If you could do that, that would be
well,
great.
yeah, I mean that's what we wanted it for, but it's like no, we're going to take your jobs.
I know. I keep forgetting to put my laundry in the dryers. I've had to rerun my laundry like 4 times in the last week, and I'm like, can I just fit? Just kind of just put it in the dryer for me. So I have to keep forgetting it and rerunning it. If I could do that, then we'd be good.
Or there's the AI boyfriends.
Oh, I don't know what's up with that. I might look at those ads for the AI boyfriend and girlfriend. I'm like, oh,
No, I know people are actually interested in that. I was like, when is that coming out?
that that just boggles my mind. I'm like, what exactly does that do? Exactly. I guess an AI boyfriend won't leave the toilet seat up, I suppose.
Yeah,
So
and they're curated to be perfect and handsome and sexy in all the right ways, and you don't have to deal with shenanigans. So, like, give me that.
will they pay for dinner? I
If they have money, I guess. Like maybe that's
guess.
part of the
Yeah. Where do
advantage.
they get the money though? That'd be interesting to see.
I don't know, stocks and bonds.
Ooh, well, all right. Now we're onto something here.
An AI that can do like stocks really well, like predict stocks really well. I don't know. Make me rich AI. I don't know. Something like that. But
The
yeah,
AI boyfriend that just stocks and bonds and buys you dinner. And, okay, this would be interesting.
hey,
Oh, wait. No. Oh no, AI is bad. Don't use AI on your on your books, on your art. I'm thinking about the boyfriend thing, but so anyway, what other projects are you working on?
I'm currently working on my fairy series. It's called Fairies Welcome. So the first book is called Lily's Dream, and it's basically about a little fairy that is like living in the garden, and she makes a human friend named Willow. And I made the story because I was like really inspired by The Secret Garden, and this was like
Yeah.
one of those areas where I feel like my imagination took over because I was like, what made the garden secret? Is it fairies in there? I was disappointed. There were no fairies in that garden. So it
So you
evolved
put
into
fairies in the garden.
yeah. So well, it's not a secret garden. Hers is it's like her grandmother's garden, and I just wanted to do a story that kind of like blended magic with just what I feel like out in nature. Like, what if the
Yeah.
butterflies we see are actually fairies in disguise, type of thing? So, all the different fairies, they have wings that mimic different butterflies and things like that, so they could blend in and hide and just like poof into magic and stuff like that. So, that's where that story came from. And it's about like how these two different characters from very different perspectives. You have Willow, who is a human girl, and you have Lily, who is a fairy that struggles to fly. They both come together and they get to know each other and they build friendships and stuff. So there's a few different books that are coming out that kind of help flesh out that story. Since like when I was going through the writing process, I had a hard time condensing a lot of stuff. So, but yeah, I'm really excited. The first one comes out in January, and then I have some readers that kind of like build the friendship after that, and
Aww.
these new fairies. So I get to have a lot of fun designing characters. Maybe I get to do one of those paper doll books where you can like switch and swap stuff, or like do jewelry and things like that. But I'm excited.
Oh, where
It's
can
gonna
people
be,
find that? I want to find that book.
you can find it. You can find it on Amazon. That's one one way to find it. But if you can support local bookstores, I would definitely recommend that if they carry it. It hasn't made
What's it called?
Lily's Dream.
Lily's Dream.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so it's
And you wrote it and illustrated it.
yes,
Oh, so cool.
yeah. So I
So,
got that opportunity because I had drew a fairy on my Instagram. This is why I say every people are watching your Instagram, they're watching your Facebook, they're watching all of that. I've had people reach out to me in private and say, "Yeah, we've been watching you for a while." So, so people are watching on there. So I had a publisher reach out to me like after I posted one of my fairy pieces on Instagram, and they emailed me and was like, "How would you feel about writing a book about fairies?" And that got me a meeting with a few people that are Simon and Schuster, and that turned into me actually pitching a few different stories. They didn't even know I liked to write until I actually had that meeting. So they was like, "We want to start with the fairy one." So hopefully there will be a lot more fantasy books for me in the future.
I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Amazing. So, well, I know you have an event you have to get to. So, where people could find you at Instagram at bea.gifted. Is there anything else you want to share with people before I let you go?
No, I just want everybody to have a wonderful day, wonderful evening. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you for joining me. And I'm Echo Chernik, and you've been listening to The Professional Artist live on the United Public Radio Network with our guest, Bea Jackson, 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And I'll see you next week.
See you.